We have a deal with Iran and the P5+1 countries over their nuclear development. The discussion has been centered around what do other countries in the P5+1, and I'll tell you about what that is, want Iran to do, and what does Iran want in return for agreeing to some of these concessions. And basically the idea is, do these countries want Iran to have the potential to develop nuclear weapons, to continue enriching uranium up to a point at which weapons grade uranium would not be particularly far. Now, first of all, who are the P5+1 that have been involved in these negotiations? The P5 are the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. That includes the United States, Russia, China, the United Kingdom, France, and then the +1 is Germany. And why Germany? Why is Germany this kind of extra country involved in the negotiations with Iran? Well, Germany is actually a key trading partner of Iran. The German Chambers of Industry and Commerce estimates that putting economic sanctions on Iran could actually cost Germany 10,000 or more jobs and significantly impact the economy. So no question that Germany has a stake in this. What's the deal that has been reached? Well, the most important thing is that it is a 6-month deal. It is considered not a temporary deal. In other words, it will last the full 6 months it is designed to last, but more of an interim deal. And Iran is given 6 months to open its nuclear sites to possible daily inspections in exchange for allowing Tehran to maintain the central elements of its uranium program. There are some funds which have been basically locked up of Iran's that will be released. And there are kind of several different layers to the deal, kind of more or less designed to test whether Iran is seeking nuclear weapons or not seeking nuclear weapons as they claim. Israel is not happy, calling it an historic mistake. And they say that by not insisting on Iran rolling back what they've already done when it comes to nuclear development, that it is kind of like a tacit acceptance by the world of Iran as a threshold nuclear weapons state, albeit not an actual nuclear weapons state at this point. The counter to that is that President Obama has said for the first time in about 10 years, Iran has agreed to stop progress. And even though for a long time they haven't been clear, Lewis, about exactly where they are and where they want to be, certainly not to the satisfaction of the P5 countries, this is actually a point where they've said, okay, we at least aren't going to move forward in the direction of what would get to weapons grade uranium. And some say that that's actually a really big deal. What do you think?
Right. Well, first, I wonder if they can build a nuclear bomb in 6 months. Apart from that, Israel, on a side note, Israel is never going to be happy as long as there's any type of nuclear program happening in Iran.
Correct.
I believe. But it's hard to say.
I mean, to answer your first question, Lewis, no. In 6 months, Iran would not be able to develop an actual nuclear weapon. Estimates say that it would take longer than that. The idea is in 6 months, they could definitely get to the point where they have significantly increased enrichment levels for the uranium, where then you could really in earnest start developing the delivery method, the weapon. You could weaponize that enriched uranium. But I don't think anybody really thinks in 6 months they could have a usable nuclear weapon.
No, probably not. But we're talking about a man here, the supreme leader. Do we really believe that that is the type of man who doesn't have any interest in building nuclear weapons? I find it very hard to believe that that would be the case.
Yeah, there are people who are emailing me saying that we have absolutely no reason to think that he has any interest in that. But many people also, like Lewis, saying, come on, it's obvious that they would love to have nuclear weapons if they had the chance. Who wouldn't, maybe, would be also a further thing. I think there's another issue here. We need to decouple two issues, which are, number one, your position on Iran having nuclear weapons, and number two, whether the countries involved, whether the P5, have any standing or right to tell Iran what to do. So there's a very reasonable argument to make that, hey, the U.S. has actually used nuclear weapons in wars twice. Who are they to be telling Iran not to have weapons because they're considered a threat? The U.S. has actually used nuclear weapons. And you know what, Lewis? That's a perfectly fine position to take if you want to argue that position. However, we need to disaggregate that from whether separate from the US's historical usage of nuclear weapons, an American or a French citizen or a Swedish citizen thinks that it's a good idea or not for Iran to have nuclear weapons. And that's where I think a lot of people are getting muddled.
Right. I mean, one discussion is about basically, should anyone have nuclear weapons? And the other is should this specific country?
I want to mention two other things and then we'll move on. Is it not positive from President Obama's point of view? He has now managed to, at least for the time being, avoid military engagements in Syria and apparently at least for 6 months in Iran. And I think that is very interesting because it's not being discussed as such. But when we step back for a second, look at this. This is two instances where other administrations may have pursued military action already. Syria and Iran, for now, the Obama administration avoiding military action.